How's it going, people? Salmon Slappy here, and this is Runescape lore, where we talk about the histories and generally just kind of the lore stuff in Runescape itself. So, with that said, what are we covering? Well, today I'm thinking we'll cover something a little bit different. We normally cover like actual individual people or gods or something along those lines. But yeah, let's change up a bit. We're going to be talking about an entire realm. And there's a few reasons why I want to do this. Basically, Jagex did at one point say they'd be adding the different realms to the game, and we'd be able to enter them from like the different species, so the demon realm and stuff like that, and the Icians, and you know, all of that good stuff. And with the world gate here, it seems kind of relevant. So with that in mind, I want to talk about Infernus. Now, if you've never heard the term Infernus, it's basically the infernal dimensions, or pandemonium. It's the demon homeland, pretty much. It is where demons come from, pretty much. It is their house. That is where they are from. So with that said, let's get into it then, I think. So Infernus is known as the Infernal Dimensions. It's a world said to be the original home of most, if not all, demon races. And it was which they first arrived in Gielinor during the Second Age, and this was to serve the god Zaros. It's described as a world of liquid fire and rocks, somewhat akin to the Majara homeworld of Runescape apparently. Infernus itself has actually had a fairly tumultuous history, with power often changing hands. The earliest known race and master of the Infernus are the aptly named Infernals. However, after a length of time as undisputed masters of this world, they were overthrown by a subordinate race of demons known as the Chthonians. It was these Chthonians that were actually led by a rather particular corpulent thing known as Hostilius, the Autocrat. Hostilius actually became the leader of Infernus after the Chthonian rebellion took place, and it was during Hostilius' reign that Zaros arrived upon Infernus. And it was here that Zaros attempted to barter with Hostilius. He offered the Chthonians the secrets of travelling between worlds to devour whole new races, in return for 12 legions of demons. Hostilius drew up a magically binding contract to seal this deal, but in the fine legalese of the document included a clause that stated the loyalty of these 12 legions would remain with the eldest of the signatories, who Hostilius believed to be himself. Zaros, though, noticed the clause when reviewing the contract, but still allowed it to go through. Hostilius barked with triumph. However, Zaros soon revealed to the assembled demons of his own origins, eons ago, in a time that predated their entire race. The humbled Hostilius pledged to Zaros his 12 mightiest dukes and their legions. Little did he know that in doing so he had unwittingly sown the seeds of his own eventual downfall. Living amongst the comparably weak humans of Gielinor was somewhat of a luxury apparently, as in the demons' eyes even the lowly Avernic were mighty beings amongst the elite of society. These Avernics started to develop rebellious ideas, unbeknownst to the distant Chthonian masters. The Majara Zamorak used this fact to sway many of the Avernic to his side, though only 2 demons decided to pledge outright allegiance, both members of the Sutzaroth subspecies. When Zamorak defeated his master Zaros, he returned to Infernus and helped the Avernic actually triumph over their tyrannical Chthonian masters. This task took him 19 years. By the time he was done, all Chthonian demons were either destroyed or exiled into the abyss. Additionally, during the quest The Golem, players travelled to a realm where the elder god Thammaron once resided, and where he eventually launched a final assault on the city of Uza in the Caridian Desert, in what would be later referred to as the Battle of Uza. This was an important conflict in the God Wars, during the Caridian Desert campaign, by Zamorak. The small space, which appears to be Thammaron's throne room though, may have been part of the abandoned fortress in one of the infernal dimensions. However, we're not entirely sure on that. There's not a massive amount of info on Infernus. Basically, what we know was kind of referenced within a lot of the Majara's memories, and some odd small pieces of information from Jagex himself. However, Hostilius, the Chthonian overlord if you will, we do have a bit more information on him in particular, so let's get into it. So, Hostilius seized rulership of the infernal dimensions following the Chthonian rebellion against the Infernals, the original rulers of the realm. This happened thousands of years ago. It was during this tumultuous time that Hostilius himself devoured many of his former infernal overlords and fellow Chthonians, causing him to grow to a size that could dwarf even a god, and granted him the accumulated cunning of everything he had ever eaten, something which greatly factored into him keeping his throne for so long. After taking control of Infernus though, Hostilius transformed his newly acquired dominion into a great bureaucracy, which rendered direct conflict socially unacceptable. Quite clever. And, in turn, encouraged the practice of legal trickery among the Chthonians in order to ensnare and earn the right to consume their peers. Hostilius' power eventually became so great that a dozen legions reflected on a fraction of his might, something which the autocrat, being the intensely greedy creature that he was determined to retain. Eventually though, in one of the most notorious chapters in Infernus history, Hostilius' court became host to the empty lord, Zaros, who had arrived in the autocrat's realm seeking an army for the purpose of invading Gielinor. In return for this, Zaros would gift Hostilius the secrets of travelling between worlds. This, that the Chthonians might possibly consume entirely new races instead of being resorted to preying on one another. Hostilius, not wanting to give away even a fraction of his forces, sought to use the legal trickery commonplace amongst Chthonian society to simply deceive Zaros, defining and redefining terms in the subsequent contract. Hostilius eventually specified that leadership of the 12 legions Zaros requested would pass to the eldest signatory, whom the autocrat, rightly so you would think, believed to be himself. However, Hostilius underestimated the empty lord, who saw through the autocrat's attempt for what it was, and yet said nothing, knowing the significance of Hostilius' miscalculation. When the pact was eventually signed, Hostilius, believing his ploy to have succeeded in his favour, barked in triumph before the demons present. He would not gloat for long, as Zaros soon revealed the truth, that he was actually far more ancient than Hostilius could ever possibly imagine, having traversed countless worlds for eons, long before the autocrat had even ever spawned. It was Zaros, not Hostilius, who was the eldest signatory. Having unwittingly foiled himself, Hostilius was humbled before the empty lord, to whom he pledged his 12 mightiest dukes and their legions for nothing in return. For the most part after this point, it seems to be quiet in Infernus. We don't really have any information. However, the next time we do get a nice chunk of info is quite a few thousand years later, and this is on Gielinor. It was at this point that Zaros was betrayed by his greatest general, the Marshal known as Zamorak, the end of the Second Age, who defeated his master in a confrontation using the two most powerful Elder artifacts. These were the Staff of Armadyl and the Stone of Jazz. Zamorak, infused with new divine power as a result of his duel with the Empty Lord, was brought to Infernus by several Sutzeroths to fulfill his long-lasting promise of freeing the Avernic, who had steadily gained a rebellious spirit of their own during Zaros' reign on Runescape. From the shackles of their own Chthonian overlords, they wished to throw them down. And, true to his word, Zamorak did indeed lead the Avernic against the Chthonians, including Hostilius, on Infernus, in a rebellion that would last 19 years. Hostilius and the other Chthonians were ultimately overthrown, and, with those not destroyed, simply being exiled into the abyss. Hostilius' ultimate fate is actually unknown though he was presumably amongst those that were murdered, if a creature like Hostilius can actually even die for that matter. If not, then he would likely have been banished like any other of his kind. So there we go, that is pretty much everything about Infernus as far as I know we can really positively say as fact. So, basically Infernus itself is the homeland of demonkind itself. It's where they originated and it's where they lived for the longest of times. It was only until Zaros came along and formed a contract with Hostilius, one of the Chthonians, the main leader, the overlord of demonkind if you will, that the demons eventually started to leave their home plane of Infernus. And soon after, it turned into the Second Age in Gillinor. Zaros arrived, brought these demons and many other races along with him, and as you know, started the God Wars. Or at least the major conflicts of the Second Age, I should say. So yeah, all in all, nice little bit of information on Infernus. The nice thing is you come back to the fact that when Zamorak eventually overthrew Zaros, that Zaros managed to turn quite a few of the Infernus, which were kind of like the lower class, if you will, of the demonkind, and he took the fight over to Zaros, managed to stab Zaros, steal some of his power. But after the fight with Zaros, contrary to popular belief from a while back, we now have new information. Basically, Zamorak did indeed manage to kind of force Zaros to leave, but in doing so, he was also injured himself and basically couldn't move. He was screwed pretty much. It was that point that some Avernic demons came along and managed to take him before the rest of the gods arrived to try and finish the deed. And it was at that point they took them to their homeworld, Infernus. And it was there that he stayed for 19 years and fought the rebellion, eventually killing off the Chthonian leaders and placing the Avernics on top of the table. Which obviously is going to make his alliances quite a bit stronger with demonkind, since his ultimate friends, the Zaros subspecies, were definitely there, as well as the Avernics. So yeah, it's got some good ties with Infernus, old Zamorak. So there we go, that's pretty much everything you need to know about Infernus. I hope you all enjoyed this one. It's a bit different. I haven't really done one of these in different realms before. So yeah, there is that. Good times. So until next time people, I will catch you all later. Have a good one.